It's Citrus County Live, Ryan Downs. We are back with a very special episode today. Some gentlemen in the house, real life people, which is a treat within itself. And we're going to talk about it. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as the CARES Act. The co-pilot today from the Citrus County Chamber of Commerce, Josh Wooten.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this, Ryan.
Yes, sir. Also, we have Jim Green from Citrus County SCORE.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to be here to share the information with the people of Citrus County.
That's right. And also, of course, Johnny Cash, the man in, we'll call that gray.
We'll say gray. It's still dark. It qualifies.
All right. Wardlow and Cash, PA. Johnny Cash, our CPA for the day. I'm sure a lot of good questions lined up for you, Johnny. But
sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Getting right into it, though. There's, thank goodness right now we have social media. I know, what is the tagline you guys have been using at the Chamber about, it's not social distance, but
physical distancing, and we are requiring some type of social interaction.
And could you imagine if we had no Facebook, no social media during this time? It would be much worse.
I'm glad we have it during this time. It's all other times that I wish we didn't have. No, it's a great outlet to communicate with people. And right now, people need to be communicated with.
When you go online right now, I mean, of course, this is a health pandemic, but economically, more than anything, that is where we're getting hit. Fortunately, in Citrus, we can say that. It's a fortunate thing. So with that in mind, online, we're seeing a ton of questions come in about the CARES Act. So that's why we want to have you guys here today and kind of walk us through this. What kind of questions are you seeing online that we can shoot towards our professionals here today?
Well, we're getting a lot of questions about unemployment, which we'll touch on at some point. But Jim Green I consider him an expert in what is in the act. But people want to know how they can get funding for their businesses. Let's start with that. You have a business. You've suffered economic damages as a result of this pandemic, as a result of the government contracting your hours or shutting you down. How do you go out there and get some relief? So I think that Jim can be helpful in explaining what is out there available.
Yeah, I mean, step one, as a business, I've gone to the Chamber of Commerce Facebook page and I saw a number of useful links. But with my business, Jim, where do I start? What's the first step to this?
The best place to start is with the SBA.gov website. SCORE is a resource partner of the SBA. We're all volunteers, and we try to assist people working their way through the SBA resources that are available. We're working right now with about 65 businesses in Citrus County to help them through the process. The first thing to do is go to sba.gov/disaster. There are two programs that you can access through that portal. One is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. We'll now call that EIDL for the short. And the other is the Paycheck Protection Program, known as the PPP. Those are the two programs that every business, every individual who's a 1099 worker for other places have access to those to help them through the economic impact of the coronavirus.
All right, and when we talk about the initial one of the rumors I heard was the Florida Bridge loan, that it's maxed out. We don't know if there's any more funding on a state level. Is that true?
That's what I've heard. One of the businesses we're working with contacted the Florida Bridge loan. They're in regions, and there are, I think, 8 regions. They've got over 50,000 applications in this region, and there's 8 other regions. So there was only $50 million in the fund, and unless the governor gets the legislature back in place to put some more money in there, it's very, very likely that not all the applications will be funded.
Yeah, from what we've understood, and we're lucky enough to have Ken Lawson's phone number, who's the Director of Economic Opportunity. Yes, they've maxed out now, and as of now, that fund. So I wouldn't recommend anybody go after the bridge loan. That would be probably spinning your wheels at this point. But if you'll continue to go to citruscountychamber.com, we will let you know if that is funded. So
I know as a small business, our biggest question is, okay, we want to access some of this money that is out there. A big fear we have is, okay, how much of this will we have to pay back? What if we have a misstep and we didn't do something along those lines that will make us, have to give some of this money back that, if we would have went the right route, we wouldn't have to do that. So
the EIDL loan is pretty much a straight loan. It comes with what they're referring to as a up to $10,000 advance loan, which may become part of your forgivable loan under the Paycheck Protection Program, maybe. But that's a 3.75% interest loan, no payment for the first 6 months. Does require some collateral. For anything over $25,000, you have to have collateral. But it's the payment schedule on it's out to 30 years, so that's a very favorable situation. Whereas the Paycheck Protection Program is referred to as a forgivable loan. It's a 1% interest. But if you meet certain thresholds in terms of keeping your payroll, keeping your people employed, using the funds in accordance with the guidelines, that is a forgivable loan, which means it's a grant. You don't have to pay it back. Right,
and actually that's tax-free. Usually if you have debt forgiven, that's a taxable event, but they've specifically said in this bill that having this loan forgiven is actually a tax-free event. So it's in essence tax-free money if you get the forgiveness.
Johnny, I've heard back and forth that if you receive a $1,200 stimulus or a $1,000 stimulus as an individual, that could come back as a taxable event. Right?
Actually, they've actually come out and said that would not be taxable.
Okay, so that the rules are catching up with. Oh yeah, this is all happening so quick. So
they change every day almost.
Right, but so that's confirmed now.
That is confirmed.
That you don't have to worry about that as additional income.
Correct.
I did hear just today that there are a number of people who have applied for the EIDL loans through the SBA portal, and apparently there has been some kind of a problem or a bug in their system. And so we want to let people know that if you applied and you have your loan number, if you applied and you click submit, your loan number would have come up on the page in front of you. If your loan begins in 2, you need to go back into the portal and reapply again. If your loan begins in 3, you do not have to do that. Your loan is in process. The SBA is working now, trying to get up by the end of this week a loan tracking site that you can go on and enter your loan number and see where your loan is in process. But again, and I didn't know this till about an hour ago, if your loan started with a number 2, you need to go back on to sba.gov/disaster and reapply again.
That's breaking news.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier, Jim, and maybe you can share this with the folks out there, doing a lot of these PPP loans, which will become grants, we know, hopefully. But a lot of people are asking, okay, when am I gonna get the loan? And we know what the feds were saying when this initially rolled out. But what are you seeing right now? What have you heard as far as when are they going to actually start cutting checks?
Well, number one, we don't know. Supposedly, it was within a few days of receipt of the application. Now they're saying it's within a few days of processing of the application. One source told me that could be 17 days. Before you hear back from them via email that your application is being processed. But if we can get this tracking site up so you can look at it, it'll give you a much better feel. So as soon as we get that up, we'll be communicating with everybody that we can that here's a site you can go to and look at your loan application.
And I think, too, what people maybe need to understand is, a lot of these PPP loans are going through your local bank. So your bank is making that decision. But then once they've made a decision, then it has to go to SBA. For SBA to sign off on it and then come back to your local bank to actually disperse the funds. So there's some cogs in that wheel that could hold this thing up. That's why it's probably not coming out as fast as people are probably anticipating.
Well, keep in mind, none of this existed 13 days ago. None of it. And this is the largest program ever done anywhere in the world ever. And for them to be able to get this up and running even a little bit is pretty amazing. And so patience is hard right now for people who don't have the funds, but they're doing a lot of good things. I just hope they'll do a good job of communicating with the people about when they can expect those things to come about.
I can tell you, Ryan, that from us just living and breathing this, that it has gotten better in the last week, but there's still no money circulating in our community and our economy. So the frustrations are building, and we understand that, and we're constantly in touch with the leaders, our congressional leaders, state leaders, So essentially what you're hearing today is if you've applied for the bridge loan, great. Hope for the best, the state bridge loan. But we don't recommend you spend any time on that now unless there's some additional funding put into that. And then the next thing is tell us a little bit about the $10,000 that's supposed to be very easy to get. Have y'all met anybody that's actually gotten it yet?
Don't know anybody who's received that yet. It is now referred to as up to a $10,000 loan advance, not a grant.
And I'm hearing that may be based on the amount of employees.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, well, when you fill out the application, they ask you certain questions about your income, if you're a manufacturer, your cost of goods sold, what are your operating expenses, and what are your employees. And then they actually determine what the loan's going to be. So I've had clients call me and say, I just want to get the 10,000. I just want the 10,000 because they know that's the free part. Well, you don't make that decision. They do the calculation.
Right.
But that's all done right on the SBA website versus working through your local bank. So you can go to sba.gov and you can fill out that EIDL loan application.
Is that the 2-pager? Is that the relatively?
It's not much more than that. It's pretty easy.
Much more. The PPP is a 2-page. The SBA's application is 2-page, but a lot of the banks have their applications on their portal. So you're going to be answering, in essence, the same questions, but on your bank's portal, if they've set up a portal. Some of the banks that are having you email them the information, you do have to email the SBA application, but it is only 2 pages.
So y'all would both recommend go to SBA website and continue to apply for that for the $10,000?
Well, I guess first, wouldn't we say we'd recommend going to the chamber website first for the links?
Well, there's a lot of good information that the chamber has.
We have it all there.
Yeah.
But if you,
but yes,
so
everybody
$10,000 is worth going after. You just have to be patient and persistent. That's what I'm hearing.
The thing we've got to make clear, and Jim can certainly speak to this too, is you cannot use the EIDL loan and the PPP for the same payroll costs. So you can't double dip that way. So you have to be careful. Now the EIDL can be used for other things other than payroll, but the PPP is primarily paycheck protection program. So it's to help you meet payroll for your employees, but you can't use the payroll for both of those loans to get them.
You can't pay your vacation home's mortgage with it.
No. And we get a lot of questions about 1099 employees or independent contractors.
That's one of the questions we receive.
And if you have a business and you use some people as independent contractors and you pay them not on a W-2 but on a 1099, you cannot include those 1099 people in your PPP application because they individually can apply themselves, and they should. Everybody who's a 1099 employee, independent contractor or whatever, they need to go on sba.gov/disaster and begin the process of getting the PPP application.
That wasn't available until recently either, so they can do that now.
And they actually start on April 10th.
That's correct.
The 10th.
And the other thing that people maybe don't know, if you do offer benefits for your employees, if you pay health insurance for your employees, if you do 401k matching, you can actually include those fringe benefits in your payroll cost. So it's not just their salary, it's also health insurance, retirement, and it's a small number, but every little bit helps. But a lot of us in Florida pay into the Florida reemployment tax. You get to include that tax in your payroll cost, but you cannot include your employer matching of FICA. So you can include that, but you can't include the Florida reemployment tax in that calculation.
Very good. And that's available to everybody that has been affected by this?
Well, less than 500 employees.
Of less than 500
We'll say
employees.
Generally, because there are some exceptions, as you can imagine. There's exceptions to just...
Well, we're speaking to our audience in Citrus County, so it's safe to say...
Safe to say that just about every business in Citrus County...
The number of companies in Citrus County that have over 500 employees that don't have some other type of exemption would be, you could count on one finger, on one hand.
Most of them are governmental.
Yeah.
So it's you actually mentioned something too. We don't want to forget that nonprofits, faith-based organizations, 501c3s can also apply for the PPP program.
Which is important because they're out there doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now. We have a great safety net in Citrus County. Ryan, I know that you, throughout your career, have helped and seen, nobody's going to go hungry during this event. And we can be thankful for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of wonderful organizations that are. It's times like this though you really see people step up. You see leaders emerge. You see the community come together. So what you guys have done at the chamber, I think you've helped really lead the way, and we're just glad to play a small role in that. But you're definitely right. No one's going to be going hungry here.
Well, we're a C6, which is not eligible right now, but we're okay. The chamber's okay. We just want to live to fight another day for our businesses, because we understand that it's not just getting this in, it's how do we stand up our business community when this passes through, and what are the consumers going to be up to?
I think a lot of people are hesitant to seek government assistance because they think of it as welfare, or they think it's the government's picking the winners and losers, or whatever those crazy terms are we hear all the time. The reality is the government wants your business to be in business 6 months from now, a year from now, and if we don't get through this, you're not going to be. And so they really want you to apply. They really do. The fact they want you to apply is generating millions of applications, which is slowing the process, but that's okay. Ultimately, we're going to get through that.
Well, this is akin to, we've heard the phrase a wartime effort, and essentially the government has come in and said, y'all are all going to be soldiers in this. This business is going to close. This business is going to change. So I have no problem with sending our businesses for help, because as a result of what the government's told us to do is, this isn't based on greed or anything else. This is based on something survival. Yep. So I do hear that a little bit of money has broke loose for at least one of our larger businesses. So that's good news, but also they have a relationship with a bank. So do y'all recommend that if you have a relationship with the bank, go to that bank first?
Well, it's almost like the real answer is it's almost. I say almost. Your only real opportunity, because the banks have pretty much told us, we are going to be working with existing clients. There are certain banks, even to get into their portal, you have to enter your. So when I set up a portal to do some applications for some of my clients, fortunately I happened to be a customer. So I was actually able to set up, that was one of the first questions I asked, what's your account number? So the banks are dealing primarily with their existing customers who they have either a bank account or a lending relationship. Now there are a few out there who are stepping up and helping those who don't have, or maybe where their bank is not participating. But your best bet is going to be to use your local bank that you have an existing relationship with. Jim, is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And the banks actually can streamline a little bit if they already have your information. It short circuits some of the information they would have to get from you to verify about you if you were a total stranger to them. So it makes it easier on them to take you in and get you processed. If they don't have a relationship with you, then they've got a lot of lending requirements that they have to get information on about you before they can put it together.
Maybe we can share some of that for those who are watching this, and maybe your bank is not doing it. Because there are some things on this list, and the thing to note, and I know Jim can speak to this too. Every bank's a little different. Some of them are asking for some things that other banks aren't. So, a lot of your banks, if you go to their website, they'll kind of tell you the things that they're going to need. But if you don't have an existing relationship, you're going to need to find your corporate book. If you can't find it, call your attorney who maybe helped you form your company, talk to your accountant, see if they have it, but you're going to need your articles of incorporation. They're actually asking for corporate bylaws. They're asking for copies of your driver's license. And if you don't have a relationship, the ones that I've been dealing with have asked for copies of tax returns, which you really don't need for the purpose of this loan. But if it's a new relationship, they are asking for tax returns and financial statements. So, best to go to their website or talk to the banker if you can and say, okay, what do I need? But those are some things that I know that you normally wouldn't think are going to be part of this process. But they're things you're going to have to get, and you're going to have to find them. And it's best to get all of this together at one fell swoop. Do not send it to them in piecemeal. I've had some bankers warn me already. Don't piecemeal it to me. Get everything together. Send it at one time, because otherwise you might get put to the side and just human nature, I may forget you're there because I'm working on people who have all their stuff too.
Or you made it to number 1 and you go back to number 500 in applications on their desk.
Exactly. And I've told people, give them more than they ask for if you have it. You know, maybe they didn't ask for a balance sheet and an income statement, but if you have it, give it to them. Because I would rather them have, if they have a question, they can find it and answer it then, as opposed to if they have a question, they have to get back to you, then that's going to move you down the list and it's going to be harder to get it done. They've got lots of applications, and the ones they're going to process the quickest are the ones that have everything dressed right in order, so that they know exactly what they're looking at.
So at citruscountychamber.com, we do have a list of banks that are participating. Some have said they're overwhelmed, take my name off the list, which we'd rather them say that than just not get around to servicing people.
You know, one of the things we haven't touched on yet, and I think it's a huge source of frustration, we're seeing a lot of questions about it, is unemployment. You know, we had the record number of people trying to go to the same website to do the same thing at the same time, and they had major server problems nationally and in Florida. What's going on there, and what is your advice for those people seeking unemployment?
The servers crashed. Nobody anticipated ever having to service this many people. But they've added 72 servers. They've added a lot of staff. They're continuing to add more servers. And my advice is be persistent. Be persistent. You know, set your alarm for 3 in the morning if that's what it takes. There are paper applications available through CareerSource, and we'll be glad to send you a link from the chamber. But really, the fastest way is to be persistent and get in that pipeline online. And you guys, tell us about the 1099 employees. Just recap that again, Paul, real quick, because Johnny, sorry. Recap that again, because that is a question. That would be like mail tax, realtors.
So basically, if when you're filing your tax return, if you're filing a Schedule C or you've got a 1099, you know, you're an independent contractor. You're not getting a W-2. So if you're an independent contractor or a small business that's not incorporated, where you're filing a Schedule C on your tax return, those are kind of generally the ones that most people are filing. You qualify for this program, and you should be filing, because whoever you're working for, you could be working for the same person, but they're just treating you as an independent contractor. They're not including you in their application. And so they're not going to have provision to continue to pay your contract. So if you're an independent contractor, self-employed, Schedule C business, and some partnerships, not going to get into the weeds too much, but you should be filing for the PPP program, because that's how you're going to ensure you're going to get paid, is through that, because whoever you're contracting with is not going to be able to include you in their application. So it's very important that you do that.
But we've definitely gone way over closing marks, and we're definitely going to have a chapter 2 of this as we
Excellent.
continue.
Excellent.
We're going to keep asking for more of your questions. Please post those. We're going to try to answer as many as we can. Closing remarks, Johnny Cash?
No, just you know, talk to your bank, talk to your accountant, go to SBA.gov, get those applications in as soon as possible. So we can get that funding for you and for your employees, because you want to keep Citrus County employed. We want people to get their paychecks. And so, yeah, time is of the essence. Start moving now.
Jim Green?
Exactly the same thing, ditto. I think we're here to help. SCORE's here to help. The Chamber's here to help. The business community that's in business and still working wants everybody else to stay in business and keep working. So anything we can do, we're ready to answer questions. We'll probe the government. We'll do everything we can to get the information necessary.
And Mr. Wooten?
Well, I would just like to say there's parts of our economy that are not shut down. And while practicing safe distancing and all that, please try to go to your accountant or go to your dry cleaner or run your car through the car wash or get takeout, you know, so that the hole that these businesses are in as this passes through aren't quite as deep as they are now. And rest assured, nobody in this community should go without power, water, food for their families. This is Easter week. We understand that we all have an obligation to one another. So just keep watching our website, keep watching Facebook, and I'm so glad you'll let us come back with anything new.
Yep, just you bring the donuts next time, all right?
I will do that.
All right. Again, Johnny Cash, Jim Green, Josh Wooten of the Citrus County Chamber of Commerce. Please feel free to post those questions. We will be back with more answers, hopefully, for you. We are Citrus County Live.